You heard from the Minority Leader Alexander Penyuma-King and First Deputy Speaker of Parliament Bernard Ahiafo. But this morning we've been asking that question: who's your guy? And if we asked the question also about the level of quality in Parliament, Ghana's Parliament, we've asked, are these the best persons to represent us as a people? Do their actions mirror our actions as a people? And this morning we're joined by Andy Kwame Apiakubi. He's a practicing lawyer and a former member of Parliament for Asante Achim North, and also Dr. Tony Edu, one-time Ghana's ambassador to the Netherlands. He was also head of the Monitoring and Evaluation Office at the Flagstaff House, at the presidency at the time, and the late Professor John Evans Atamils. Dr. Tony Edu, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us. Andy Apiakubi, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
And good morning to His Excellency Dr. Tony Edu.
Okay. Dr. Tony Edu, let me start with you, because we've been having this conversation, started as an informal conversation, but we've asked the question about the quality in Ghana's Parliament. And I've asked, are these the best people?
Raymond.
Hello?
Raymond.
Hello, I'm listening.
Doctor is very much my senior in politics. He is one of the people who nurtured us.
Okay.
I believe that it is better for me to speak for him to close it.
Okay.
In our traditional settings,
okay.
when the big men, the elders speak, we all keep quiet.
Okay. So
let's make the mistakes for him to correct us.
Okay. So Honorable Apiakubi, Winston here. You can go ahead with the question.
Winston,
yes. So
I hope you agree with me.
I do not disagree with you. So it means we can continue.
Let him bring the curtain.
Okay. So please start.
Okay. Your Excellency, good morning.
Oh, good morning, Honorable Apiakubi.
I'm sure you remember our meetings of the past when you were giving us tuition lectures. Thank you very much for what you've done for us. Now,
where was I doing that?
The issues in Parliament.
Honorable Apiakubi, Dr. Tonidu is asked where he was doing that.
Oh, in our student politics. Maybe you have forgotten, but during our student days in Lagos.
Okay.
Yes. Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
If you have forgotten, we still hold you in high esteem for what you have done. In fact, you were mentoring us. I'm happy that you didn't know.
Thank you for the compliment.
Yes. I'm happy that you didn't know what you were doing. Anyway, Winston, thank you very much for calling me this morning. Let me first and foremost apologize to you, to your station, to the listeners, and to the public of Ghana for what we are hearing and seeing. I am not sure that we are all behaving well, given the space that we have in Parliament. I am not sure that any of the parties is behaving well. And in fact, regrettably, including even the deputy speaker who just spoke. And in fact, the language was too hard and harsh. I want to apologize on his behalf because he is part of the leadership of the House. So it is important that his choice of words, he must be careful, particularly when he is addressing the public. If one of his own, and indeed in the committee, he is the ranking, and the deputy speaker is the chair. So if, assuming your ranking brought out language unpalatable, it is equally important for you to also hold your head up in your response to him and show the kind of diplomacy that the public expects of the committee of the House. So the rebuttal is equally unpleasant. But given the situation we find ourselves, I'm sure that we are all learning. And I'm happy also that you brought Dr. Tony Edu also on the line. He is one person who was always very careful with his language. Indeed, he is a working encyclopedia if you talk about linguistics. And I do admire him for always showing us the diplomatic communication. So, yes, I agree with you that what we are seeing and hearing from Parliament is not pleasant to all of us. Parliament is an institution that harbors our representatives, and we expect the cream of the cream be in Parliament so that they can uphold the dignity of the House of Parliament. And indeed, in most cases, most of them go out in representative capacities when the country Ghana has a platform in foreign countries. And this is the way they are going to conduct themselves even as they step out of the country. Then the disgrace will come to all of us. So let them also listen to the advice we are giving them, and let them also grow out of this and know that they are not there by themselves, but they are there to represent all of us. In fact, he said, whoever is given much is also expected from them. It is a cross that you have to carry if you decide to do it. Otherwise, if you think that your temperament cannot keep you in that position, you know what to do, you do the honorable thing. But if you accept the responsibility of office to represent all of us, including the elders of the country, if you represent our team, the class of our country, you represent all of that. So you must be decorous in the choice of office as you address the problem. And indeed, I will attribute the perceived low quality in the House to the high attrition rate. You see, Ghanaians are not patient to allow the representatives to grow in the institutions we push them into. And one term, two term, people get fed up with you and they want to get you out and all kinds of things. And the mischief that is also involved, get him out by all means and that kind of thing. We end up hurting ourselves if we are not careful. And again, let me mention the monetization of our political system means that you can get into the House of Parliament not by quality as a person, by way of your background, preparation, your experience, and your skill, but you can get there because you have money. If it becomes the case, we are not careful, a time will come where people will buy themselves into the House of Parliament. And indeed, excuse my language, but criminals who may have money may buy themselves into the House. And you know what will happen to the legislation that comes out of the House to protect criminals. So we have to be careful in our selection process. I'm happy that everybody begins to think of how to monetize the selection process so that we can get people into the House based on the merits that they show, not because they have money, they can buy the way out in Parliament. So I agree with you that quality is going down, but somehow the people can also learn on the job. But if you get people who are trainable into the House, that is where we have to have the problem. Otherwise, people can also learn the job. But like Doctor is listening, some of his handiwork that he himself doesn't acknowledge. We who were the DPs will stand up and defend what they did in the past. And I will ask him to continue to mentor some of the people who are still there. And indeed, not only him, people who have done it before, people who are knowledgeable, people who have served in diplomatic sectors as Dr. Let them come and impart. It is not too late, and I'm not sure that people of Dr. caliber, they are also too old to impart. So my current call is that let all such people come to help. They say go to Macedonia and help push the agenda. So yes, let us continue to learn from them and let them be magnanimous enough to want to still help. Some of the people they mentored, we have even come of age and even come on retirement.
Okay.
But there are people who are still crying for the same thing that we end. But again, you also in the media, please provide a platform for such teaching and learning so that we can also develop capacity while we have them in the house. Let us not also throw them out. Let us also acknowledge the fact that some of them are not fully developed to the stage that they could have been there, and give them also the benefit of the doubt by way of encouraging them to also learn. Parliament is Parliament of Ghana. So we don't do ourselves any good by also advertising and promoting the seeming lack of capacity in the house. It will not work advantage, but let's continue to learn. Thank you very much for this opportunity. And
yes, and thank you. Please hold on 1 minute.
Who is my mentor.
Yes, please hold on. Let me bring in Dr. Tony Edu. And it's the same question about, the quality in Ghana's parliament. Is this the best quality we can have as a people representing us, Dr. Edu?
A very difficult question, because I'm being asked to characterize people who probably I don't know. But since the 8th Parliament, a lot of boisterous behavior has occurred in our Parliament that doesn't give our democracy a chance to shine. Democracy is not only through the ballot box. Our parliamentarians must show decorum in the way they behave towards one another. I must say that we are humans, and the tendency for emotions to rise above our intelligence and the need to comport ourselves can happen. But I agree with Honorable Apia Kubi when he says the monetization of our politics is sending all kinds of characters into our legislative chamber. On the other hand, let me say something that maybe Andy Apia Kubi wouldn't agree with me, but it's very characteristic of MPP politicians to be boisterous. When they argue, the political language and their behavior doesn't show a honorable behavior orientation. Most of the arguments tend to be sheer sophistry. And when it's not sheer sophistry, it becomes what sociologists call petitio principii. That is dodging the question and interposing lies as an answer. So far, this vetting, hello?
Yes, I'm listening. Please go ahead.
So far as this vetting is concerned, I think the MPP has cooperated with the NDC in many ways, like helping President Mahama to get his team ready within the time frame that he gave in the party's manifesto. They have been cooperative there because under normal circumstances, the nomination of a person will have to go to the public, and a few days later you will receive petitions against a particular nominee and so on and so forth. On that score they have. But Afenia Markin's behavior excuse me to say, he is having a very tough case of cognitive dissonance.
Why?
Cognitive dissonance, in social psychological terms, says that when your cognitive elements appear to conflict, you are compelled to restore consonance by either eliminating or devaluing one of the elements that you believe is easy. And that is how Afenia Markin has been behaving. First, I don't think he has realized that his party is in the minority. So his language is very, very boisterous. Incredibly enough, he will be the first to say, I'm a gentleman, I'm reasonable, and that kind of thing. And yet, his behavior doesn't correspond to that, to the rhetoric that he wants the public to see or public to hear. Let me give you one historical test case involving me, J.H. Mensah, and Kwamna Battles.
Okay.
In 2008, when Rawlings appointed me Deputy Minister of Defense, J.H. Mensah wrote to the then chairman of the Appointments Committee, Ken Jirasa, that Jirasa must subpoena my personal confidential file from the University of Cape Coast. Ken asked him why. He said he just want my file to be subpoenaed. He was a member of the appointment committee. He couldn't have the decency to confront me with any allegation during my vetting session because he left, and when he was going, he said, you people go ahead and vet him. I've already voted against him. That's not a honorable behavior. You don't know me. You wanted my personal file. It wasn't given to you, but you have made up your mind that you vote against me. That's not the behavior of a parliamentarian. Kwamna Battles, on the floor of the House, which I couldn't go because I have not been confirmed yet, stood up to say I am very insulting, and I went and insulted Justice Annan at the castle. And Justice Annan never had an office at the castle. And later on, Justice Annan told me, Tony, I'm sorry, but as a speaker, I couldn't take part in the debate. So I couldn't tell him that Tony never would disrespect me or even quarrel with me. In fact, since my political activism, I've had 3 godfathers: Rawlings, Justice Annan himself, and General Kwenu. My godfathers. When Rawlings appointed me Deputy Minister of Defense, it was Justice Annan who convinced me to take the post because I was not interested.
Okay.
I told Rawlings that I don't want to be a minister. But he insisted. Oh, the men and officers at Benwakam, they want you, and so on and so forth. Justice Annan had to step in to convince me to take the post. Now, the reason why I'm narrating this is the haughty behavioral orientation of MPP politicians. The presentation that they know everything. And yet, like I said, when politicking is going on, the arguments are just sheer sophistry and petitio principii, escaping from the question, interposing lies to justify their actions, and passing the buck has been very characteristic of MPP politicians. They never accept that they are wrong. It's always the other side, or the other person who is wrong. like Afenyo Markin targeting the clerk of his committee, saying all kinds of things which the poor lady doesn't have a chance on the floor or cannot take part in the debate at the appointment committee to answer. That is not the expected behavior of a parliamentarian. You can't do that. And it's a shame that all kinds of characters are entering the parliament through monetization of the politics on both sides of the divide. It's not just one side that is monetizing politics. Like I'm saying, NDC now, they're going to appoint MNGAs. Already people will be paying money to those who will choose them, and then they will have to pay money to the delegates or to the assembly people who will confirm or not confirm their appointment. And when you see all these things, the first thing is this democracy worth it? Our people are suffering. And yet, members of parliament, instead of serving the national interest, go there to service their own personal interest. It's not fair. Afenyo Markin was proud. I listened to him on MFA's interview last night.
Yes, on the probe.
Yeah, the probe. And all he's saying, showing off how he became rich and so on, is that necessary? It's not necessary. Who are you fighting? The chairman of the appointment committee has been very accommodating of your behavior. You question a nominee for 3 to 4 hours, using things that has nothing to do with his competence to manage the ministry for which he had been nominated. This means that you are trying to score personal political points, and you are not serving the interests of Ghanaians. So the big question is, who is benefiting from this democracy?
Tell me,
Is it the political class or the people who send them there?
Tell me, who's benefiting from it?
I beg your pardon?
Tell me who's benefiting from this democracy.
It's the political class. They are the ones that are benefiting. At the end of the day, you will find that somebody will be appointed to a position within 3 months. He has put up a mansion. It took me 20 years to build my house. 1 cement bag at a time. They said the former Central Regional Minister, Ekuban, he used to see me and he said, you and your 1 bag cement. I said, that's what I can afford. I built my house. What are they in a hurry for? Why is everybody rushing to be a politician? Because it pays and corrupting the country at the expense of the welfare of the general Ghanaian public.
Okay, let me bring in Andy Apiakubi at this point. But Dr. Edu, you talked about your vet, and you said in 2008 when President Rawlings, I remember your vet, and I think it was in 1999.
98.
98, yes. 98.
Yeah.
So when you talk about
J.H.
2008.
Mensah was a member.
Yes. Then when he was a minority leader, yes.
Yes, he was a member.
So that was in 98, yeah.
He won't vet me, but he will go to the chamber and more or less malign me.
Okay. Let me bring in Andy Apiakubi at this point. Honorable Apiakubi, so you've heard Dr. Tonyedu make the point
Yes, I did.
That I don't know if you have any reaction before I move to my question.
Let me just, you see, when our big men speak, it's difficult to want to take a different position. But excuse me, and Doctor, let me show some little disagreement when Doctor wants to particularize the behavior to NPP MPs. I kind of disagree with that proposition. It is probably the behavior of, if he generalizes to cover all the parliamentarians, I will be happy, or some of them I will be happy, because I'm not sure that this is coming from only MPP. We also witnessed the vetting of some ministers appointed by the past president, and some of the language, some of the behavior were also very appalling. So it is like it is becoming part of the minority at any time to want to oppose the appointment of a majority president. And I'm not sure that is a good behavior. And in any case, when you consider people in the political space attacking each other, sometimes frivolously like that, it only just exposes the class members to crucifixion by the public. If you have a genuine complaint about any person or any person of political color, you can always bring it out appropriately. But when the person appears before you for vetting, and the purpose is to find his suitability to the office he has been appointed to, I believe that what you need to do is to investigate his competence, his qualifications, his background, his experience, and his zeal and his network and things like that. If you have any other issues with other persons, I believe there are enough channels outside the military platform to want to do that. We have an office of ASP, we have the Attorney General's Department, we have the Police Department, we have Yoko, and all the like. But when you take center stage in Parliament and you have an obligation, a responsibility, a mandate to exercise, and you purport to import mandates outside the parliamentary mandate, that is where you have the conflict of interest. That's where I don't approve of the sentiment, the communication, the choice of words, and the abuse of the office that we are all complaining about.
Okay.
But given as it has been, I believe that we have to resort to probably training. That's where I was seeking the support of people like Dr. Edu, who I testify having sat for his tutelage to come in.
Okay.
Probably
talking about that, Honorable Apia Kubi, please hold on with that. That would be the next line of question. So please hold on. This morning we're joined by Dr. Tony Edu and Dr. and Honorable Andy Apia Kubi. When we return after these messages, we'll look at the way forward when it comes to the level of quality in Ghana's parliament. We'll be right back. We still have Dr. Tony Edu and Andy Apia Kubi with us. So let me just wrap this up. Honorable Andy Apia Kubi, so going forward, we've talked about the challenges, we've talked about where we are. What do we do?
Yes, thank you very much, my brother. I think that a time that we need to acknowledge what we have and keep it and develop it. We have all advocated that we are not happy with what we are seeing and what is there. We cannot do that. We need to then provide education for them, and I believe that parliamentarians must be humble enough to want to pursue personal and collective development as members of the House. Some of them may think that once they have arrived in Parliament, they are good enough for the purpose of which they are there. But I beg to differ and say that there's words of former president of one of the institutions. He says that he who chooses to improve chooses to be good. So let them appreciate the fact that the shortcomings that the public is complaining of is an advertisement of the gap between the expectation and the reality, and therefore they need to work to bridge the gap. Bridging the gap means getting developed through education, through experience, and through networking, probably through a mentorship program.
But Honorable, the other problem is the monetary problem that you've all talked about.
Right. I will come to that.
Okay.
So, and I cited the case of Doctor in time past when he was giving lectures on student leadership and all that. We need to go through that again. And that is why I was inviting people like him to still continue to do this national service of providing knowledge to the selected few in the House. Now, coming back to monetization, I want to prescribe a solution for consideration. And this solution is where we make sure that delegates who will vote to select leaders are unknown until the time that they are voting. This we can do by opening up the list of qualified persons to vote. For example, we have maybe 2,000 of members of a particular political party in a constituency who are qualified by way of membership and in good standing. We give them all the opportunity to come. But we want 500 people to act as delegates. So let us have a ballot papers of yes, 500 and no 1,500. Put them all together. Let's have the ballot before. You go through the ballot to select. If you select a yes, you proceed to go and vote. If you select a no, then you receive. So that the person who is going to vote to select a candidate will not be known to contestants before the voting. In all cases of knowing the contestants, that breeds the corruption. That is
but before you go on, this 2,000, would they be known to the contestants?
Yes, but if say we have...
So if the 2,000 are known to the contestants, can't the contestants influence all of them, bearing in mind that 500 out of the 2,000 are going to vote?
Hypothetically, because in every constituency you have 30,000, 20,000 and the like. So I'm only using the 2,000 only hypothetically so that it will help us in the calculation. But let's say in my constituency where we have 57,000 eligible voters, you cannot even buy 10,000, let alone 20,000 and 30,000. So if all 30,000 members are eligible to vote, and you put maybe 500 and say 3,000, because normally not everybody will come, even though qualified. So maybe you say put 5,000, put 500 of them as say a yes vote. Then let us come and do a random selection and then proceed to vote. If the delegates are unknown, it is difficult to try to influence anybody, because the delegate himself will not know he will be delegate until he goes through the ballot. We must find a way of making it difficult for monetary considerations to influence the selection. This is what I'm proposing on the fiscal front. Otherwise, if it is about who pays the best, we will not get the quality that we want. Because it is not a case that competence goes with ability to pay. And therefore, when the criteria is ability to pay, you will relegate competence to the background, and we will get what we don't want. So, and again, there must be public education also to the general public, for them to understand the obligations and the office of what you are supposed to do. Because wrongly, people tag politicians, parliamentarians as development agents. But unfortunately, that is not the case, because they don't control the purse. When the president comes to a constituency, he is hailed as having done all.
Honorable, you make these promises when you are campaigning.
He is verified because he has not delivered votes. When you leave the president hailing him to go without asking him for the road, and you want to rather tag the MP for not having constructed the road, it means you don't understand. You understand? We need to provide that understanding to them. And when you say that people campaign on delivering roads, you see, when you generalize that you don't pick the right candidates for emulation because you think that everybody does that. No, I make sure I tell people that I don't have the capacity to construct roads. In my campaign, I always do that. You can find out.
Okay.
But some of them who unknowingly advertise competencies that they don't have, that is the challenge. And unfortunately, people like you, journalists, you don't correct us. You rather bring out information that all of us are saying the same. So it is not the case.
Hold on a minute. We actually do that. Hold on a minute. Let me bring in Dr. Tonyedu because of our time. Dr. Tonyedu, how do we solve this with the problem?
We have a Herculean task ahead of them. First of all, I think the MPs we have, they must undergo training. We need attitudinal change and institutional reforms from the grassroots participant to the one who votes. Like Honorable Apia Kubi said, we need physical decentralization. Let the money go down there. The money belongs to the people. And therefore, you cannot centralize the physical regime and then come and lie that you are giving $1 million to every constituency when what you have constructed won't come up to even 100,000. So, the politician needs re-education and reorientation. The electorate needs the same thing, attitudinal change, and don't look at your MP as the one who is coming to save you. We need honest governments that will deliver real welfare to the people of this country and not rhetorical speech, passing the buck. That is how we have been governed, and that's how the ordinary people are suffering. The current NDC government must know that the electorate punished the MPP for the 8 years maladministration of this country. If the same thing occurs in the NDC, then all politicians must find a hole and go and hide in it. Because come 2028, it's going to be butu-butu. The money will flow. Why? Everybody wants to go to parliament. so that they will lobby and become ministers and take their share of money. When I was working for President Mills, most of my IT infrastructure was paid for by the UNDP. The government didn't pay anything. And yet, at the end of every year, I'll return the money back to chest. My accountant and staff were very annoyed with me. And I said, money is not mine. It's for the government. So if I don't use it, it goes back to the government. Of course, I cannot say that my resolution should be widespread among everybody. Because most people have responsibilities that I don't have. So I can afford to be frugal and full frontal. But if we don't change our behavior and attitude and have institutional reforms, I'm talking about those who have been set up to fight corruption. They must put Ghana first.
Okay.
And it's not that.
Okay, I think we may have lost them, but point well made. Thank you very much, Dr. Tony Edu, and thank you also, Honorable Andy Apia Kubi. This is the Super Morning Show on Joy 99.7.